This being the day designated in the Constitution and the laws of the state of Minnesota for assembling of the legislature, I hereby call the Senate to order. Prayer will be offered by the chaplain Reverend Kirsten Fryer from Bethlehem Lutheran Church in the Midway, St. Paul, Minnesota. After the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Good afternoon, Senators, and thank you for the invitation to join you today. Let us pray. God, we come before you today in this new year and this new session. There's a lot swirling around in this room and in this building today, and we name that. Uncertainty and anxiety and questions about what is to come. Grief that is raw and fresh because there is an empty desk in this room. Grief for a colleague and a friend. We name that today too. And there's hope. There's hope and possibility and potential and progress because we are in this and we're in it together. Meet us in all of this, O Holy One. Calm anxious hearts and minds and souls, and give these senators and their staffs what they need for these days to come. Wisdom, courage, understanding, open ears and open hearts, time to rest, and space enough to simply breathe. Lead and guide each of these senators as they seek to serve their constituents faithfully and work toward a common good for all who call this great state home. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Well, good afternoon and welcome. As I look around today, and as just mentioned by the Reverend, I can't help but acknowledge the empty seat in the Senate today. Senator Dziedzic was the best of us. She worked every single day across lines of difference to bring Minnesotans together and to make life much better for everyone who calls this state home. We are so fortunate to have worked with her, and we will deeply miss her. In honor of her legacy, I want to wish all of you a productive and collaborative session. And if I may say so, I am grateful that we will not be spending a whole lot of time together over the coming weeks because you all have got it. So, with that, I hereby appoint Senator Sandra L. Pappas as Clerk Pro Tem, who will call the roll by legislative district in numerical order. Senator Pappas. When your district is called, please respond present.
First District, Mark T. Johnson. Second District, Steve Green. Third District, Grant Hochschild. Fourth District, Robert J. Kupek. Fifth District, Paul J. Utke. Sixth District, Justin D. Eichhorn. 7th District, Robert D. Farnsworth. 8th District, Jennifer A. McEwen. 9th District, Jordan Rasmussen. 10th District, Nathan Wessenberg. 11th District, Jason Rarick. 12th District, Tori N. Westrom. 13th District, Jeff R. Howe. 14th District, Eric Putnam. 15th District, Gary H. Dames. 16th District, Andrew R. Lang. 17th District, Glenn H. Grunhagen. 18th District, Nick A. Friends. 19th District, John R. Jasinski. 20th District, Steve J. Druskowski. 21st District, Bill Weber. 22nd District, Rich Draheim. 23rd District, Jean Dornick. 24th District, Carla J. Nelson. 25th District, Liz Bolden. 26th District, Jeremy R. Miller. 27th District, Andrew Matthews. 28th District, Mark W. Corin. 29th District, Bruce D. Anderson. 30th District, Eric Lucero. 31st District, Calvin K. Barr. 32nd District, Michael E. Kroon. 33rd District, Karen Housley. 34th District, John A. Hoffman. 35th District, Jim Abler. 36th District, Heather Gustafson. 37th District, Warren Limmer. 38th District, Susan Pa. 39th District, Mary K. Kunish. 40th District, John Marty. 41st District, Judy Seeberger. 42nd District, Bonnie S. Westland. 43rd District, Ann H. Rest. 44th District, Tu Zhang. 45th District, Ann M. Johnson Stewart. 46th District, Ron Latz. 47th District, Nicole L. Mitchell. 48th District, Julia E. Coleman. 49th District, Steve A. Swazinski. 50th District, Alice Mann. 51st District, Melissa H. Wicklin. 52nd District, Jim Carlson. 53rd District, Matt D. Klein. 54th District, Eric R. Pratt. 55th District, Lindsay Port. 56th District, Aaron K. McQuaid. 57th District, Zach Duckworth. 58th District, Bill Liskey. 59th District, Bobby Joe Champion. 60th District, vacant. 61st District, D. Scott Dibble. 62nd District, Omar Fateh. 63rd District, Zainab Mohammed. 64th District, Aaron P. Murphy. 65th District, Sandra L. Pappas, present. 66th District, Claire Umo Verbaten. 67th District, Fong He.
A quorum is present. Our next order of business is the election of co-presiding officers of the Senate. Senator Murphy.
Thank you and good morning. I move that Senator Bobby Joe Champion and Senator Jeremy Miller be elected as co-presiding officers for the Minnesota Senate.
Senator Murphy moves that Senators Champion and Miller be elected as co-presiding officers. The clerk pro tem will call the roll in alphabetical orders. Members, please vote by saying aye or no to the motion.
Abler. Anderson. Barr. Bolden. Carlson. Champion. Coleman. Swazinski. Dames. Dibble. Dornick. Draheim. Dreskowski. Duckworth. Icorn. Farnsworth. Fate. Friends. Green. Grunhagen. Gustafson. Hochschild. Herr. Hoffman. Housley. Howe. Jasinski. Johnson. Johnson Stewart. Klein. Coran. Kroon. Kunish. Kupek. Lang. Latz. Liskey. Limmer. Lucero. Mann. Marty. Matthews. McQuaid. McEwen. Miller. Mitchell. Mohammed. Murphy. Nelson. Umar Verbaten. Pappas votes aye. Pa. Port. Pratt. Putnam. Rarick. Rasmussen. Rest. Seeberger. Utke. Weber. Wessenberg. Westland. Westrom. Westrom pass. Wicklund. Chong. Westrom.
There being 65 ayes and 1 pass, the motion prevails, and Senator Bobby Joe Champion and Senator Jeremy R. Miller have been elected as co-presiding officers. Senators Champion and Miller, please come forward and subscribe to the oath of office as administered by the Honorable Sarah E. Hennessy, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Yes, of course. Sorry, I'm shorter than you.
Good afternoon. If you can each raise your right hand. Do each of you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and to discharge faithfully your duties as a co-presiding officer of the Minnesota Senate to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God? All right, thank you.
Congratulations. The gavel is up for grabs.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see everyone. Happy New Year to all of you. It's hard to believe that this is my 15th opening day ceremony here in the Minnesota Senate, and it truly is an honor to be here. And Senator Champion, just when you think you've seen it all, you and me have both been here a long time, just when you think you've seen it all, here we are making history together as co-presiding officers of the Minnesota Senate. So it's an honor to do this with you. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of you, my Senate colleagues, for your trust, and you have my commitment that I will preside over the Minnesota Senate with the respect and the dignity that Minnesotans expect and deserve. And again, I want to thank you for this wonderful opportunity. we have a tremendous amount of work ahead. This is going to be a very challenging legislative session. We have a massive projected budget deficit that's looming out in front of us. We have to revisit some of the laws that have passed in previous sessions. We have an opportunity to pass new bills. Who knows? Maybe we'll even give sports betting a run this year. But we have a tremendous amount of work ahead, and our leaders could have either chose chaos or cooperation. And I couldn't be more proud to be a member of the chamber that chose cooperation, because we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to compromise in order to get these things done, and I am confident, I'm optimistic. Now, it's only day one, but I am optimistic that we can work together and we can get good things done for the people of the state of Minnesota. So again, thank you so much to my colleagues for this wonderful opportunity. And Senator Champion, look forward to co-presiding over the Senate with you.
Let me start by thanking this chamber and thanking our leaders for choosing an opportunity to come together and figure out how we can go forward together. Because to me, the operative word is forward. We can always look in the past. We can always point fingers. We can always cast blame wherever we want it to be. But it takes those who see the bigger picture and see what's important for Minnesotans to make a decision to go forward. And our commitment is to continue to work together with Senator Miller and the rest of the chamber, because we want to keep Minnesotans in front of us. And to me, that is a very important guiding principle and something that we will continue to work on. I think the open dialogue is always important. I think the commitment to think forward as opposed to thinking backwards is also a guiding principle, but also to understand that we've been entrusted, especially as co-presidents, we've been entrusted with making sure that this body and this institution is well run, but is respected, and is respected by all of us from the front of the chamber all the way to the back of the chamber, from the left of the chamber all the way to the right of the chamber. That is our commitment, that's my commitment, and I want to thank you again for choosing us to work together as co-presiding presidents. So thank you so very much, and thank you again, Senator Miller. If you give me just one moment, I will go to where I'm supposed to be. The next order of business is the election of officers. I'm going to call on Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having my trust and confidence, I am honored to nominate Tom Bodden for Secretary of the Senate.
Are there any other nominations besides Tom S. Bodden for Secretary of the Senate? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing there are no other nominations, nominations are closed. The clerk pro tem will call the roll in alphabetical order. Members, please vote by saying the last name of the candidate.
Abler. Anderson. Barr. Bolden. Carlson. Champion.
Bodden.
Coleman. Zwazinski. Dames. Dibble. Dornick. Draheim. Druskowski. Duckworth. Eichhorn. Farnsworth. Fateh. Friends. Green. Grunhagen. Gustafson. Hochschild. Herr. Hoffman. Housley. Howe. Jasinski. Johnson. Johnson Stewart. Klein. Coran, Kroon, Kunish, Kupak, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, McQuaid, McEwen, Miller, Mitchell, Mohammed, Murphy, Nelson, Verbatim, Pappas votes Bodern, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wicklin, Zhang. Anderson.
Receiving 66 of the votes of the Senate, Thomas S. Bodern has been elected Secretary of the Senate. Mr. Bodern, please come forward and subscribe to the oath of office as administered by the Honorable Sarah E. Hennessy. Did I get it right? Hennessy.
If you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and to discharge faithfully your duties as Secretary of the Minnesota Senate to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God? Congratulations.
Continuing with the election of officers, I'm calling on Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Mr. President, I move the election of other elective offices to be made one roll call unless there should be more than one nomination for any office.
All in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say no. The motion prevails. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I nominate Michael R. Lynn for First Assistant Secretary.
Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm honored to nominate Jessica Tupper for Second Assistant Secretary.
Senator Dames.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I am honored to nominate Melissa J. Mapes for Engrossing Secretary.
Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I nominate Sven K. Lindquist for Sergeant at Arms.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I nominate Brian Purick for Assistant Sergeant at Arms.
And Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I nominate the Reverend Kirsten Fryer for Chaplain.
Members, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. The Secretary will take the roll in alphabetical order. Members may vote for all of the officers by saying nominees.
Abler. Anderson. Barr. Bolden. Carlson. Champion.
Nominees.
Coleman. Swadzinski. Dames. Dibble. Dornick. Draheim. Drazkowski. Duckworth. Eichhorn. Farnsworth, Fateh, Friends, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hoschild, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Johnson Stewart, Klein, Coran, Kroon, Kunish, Kupek, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, Make Wade, McEwen, Miller, Mitchell, Mohammed, Murphy, Nelson, Umu Verbatim, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wickland, Zhang,
Receiving 66 votes of the Senate, the nominees are elected to their respective offices. Please come forward and subscribe to the oath of office as administered by the Honorable Sarah E. Hennessy.
If you could raise your right hands. Do each of you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and to discharge faithfully your duties as officers of the Minnesota Senate to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God? Congratulations.
Members, the next order of business is motions and resolutions. The Secretary will report Senate Resolution Number 1.
Senate Resolution Number 1, a Senate resolution relating to temporary organization of the 94th Minnesota Senate.
Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Resolution Number 1 be adopted.
To the resolution, will you speak about it, Senator Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Just after Christmas, we lost our beloved Senator Dziedzic, which places the Senate in a rare tie. When I reached out to Leader Johnson to talk with him about the fact that we were in a rare tie, we immediately agreed that we should come together to find a way to an organizing framework which would allow us to begin the work of this session today. And so for 5 or 6 days and nights, Senator Dames, Jasinski, Kroon, Coleman, Rasmussen, Rest, Marty, Pappas, Dibble, Champion, Leader Johnson, and myself worked in short order to come up with an agreement that allows us to both share responsibility and power for the conduct of the session so we can begin our work together. I want to provide my deepest gratitude to everyone in this chamber, to our staff, to the members, to those in the room, to everyone for taking this leap of faith, if you will, that allows us to begin together, and particularly to Leader Johnson, who said yes and guided us through this. This resolution, Senate Resolution Number 1, provides for the temporary organization of the Senate. The resolution memorializes the agreement negotiated between the two caucuses. The resolution governs a range of topics, including the duration of the agreement, electing co-presiding officers, committee management, floor operations, our staff, and appointments made by caucus leaders. The resolution also establishes committees, committee memberships, committee schedules. The temporary Senate rules from the last session are adopted for this session with the exception updating committee names. Finally, there are several items relating to future agreements and how emerging issues will be resolved. I urge your support, and I thank you very much.
Before we go to adoption of the resolution, we're going to hear from Senator Johnson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Leader Murphy, for those kind words and laying out the resolution number 1 in a very clear way. It was a real interesting process, but one where a lot of good faith passed between the two caucuses, and I think something that's going to be modeled within the session to come. So first of all, I just want to welcome members and staff and all Minnesotans who are tuning in today to what will be a very interesting 25 legislative session and the 94th legislative session in Minnesota Senate. For the last few years, we've seen a number of very unique things that we can call unprecedented. And here we go again, another unprecedented thing here in the Minnesota Senate. It's a sad event, though, that brings us to this 33-33 tie. We were all friends with Senator Dziedzic and really respect the work that she did in this institution, and we'll miss her greatly. But this is a moment. This is a moment now that we are given that says, do with it what you can. And I think we're going to take this opportunity to turn this, what could be a struggle, into something that would really come together and build bridges in politics that people haven't seen for quite some time. Trust in political leadership and government institutions reaches a new low, it seems like, every single day. The public views of politicians focused on just holding on to power at any cost are not what Minnesotans want to see. Just last weekend, I was at my son's robotics tournament, and I was a judge bringing in the robots that the kids had designed and built, and part of that process is you have to send over a piece of paper to the student who built the robot, and they have to sign it. And this little elementary school kid looks up at me and says, well, what does this say? I said, don't worry about it, the lawyers have written it. And he looks me dead in the eyes and he says, there are two people I don't trust, lawyers and politicians. You turn on the news and it's easy to understand why somebody even that young would have that sentiment. And here we have the opportunity today to change that narrative in Minnesota politics. You know, we're coming together today for one reason. We are going to find solutions for Minnesotans who talk about the struggle in making ends meet. We're going to find solutions for parents and students who talk about the concerns in education. We're going to find solutions for those who have been harmed by violent crimes and ways to deliver justice. I know my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are ready to get to work. They are committed to showing that when all the voices are heard, real good things happen for Minnesotans. Let's make this session about bringing voices to the Minnesota State Senate, and let's let our work begin in this spirit of bipartisanship. Thank you, Senator Murphy, for the work that you've done and your leadership team. I'd like to thank all members who have supported and worked on this resolution. I look forward to the vote and the session ahead. Thank you.
Members, we have to do two things. We have to first adopt the resolution, and then if there's any discussion, any further discussion, then we can do so at that time. But the first thing is we would just take a roll call on the adoption of the resolution. But any discussion? Any additional discussion? Seeing none, the secretary will take the roll. The secretary will secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the Senate Resolution number 1 is adopted. Members, you've heard it said quite often on the floor today that we have a member who is no longer with us, who has meant an enormous amount to the Senate. This is the time that we have carved out in order to make sure that those who want to express anything about our beloved Senator Dziedzic, that they have the opportunity to do it. And I do have a list. And then once I go through this list, if there are those who did not sign up who wants to be recognized, I will certainly do that. We'll start with Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. We begin with a couple of readings. The first is The Road Home by Michael Dennis Brown, Stephen Paulus, with permission. Tell me, where is the road I can call my own, that I left, that I lost so long ago? All these years I have wandered, or when will I know? There's a way, there's a road that will lead me home. After wind, after rain, when the dark is done, as I wake from a dream in the gold of day, through the air there's a calling from far away. There's a voice I can hear that will lead me home. Rise up, follow me, come along is the call. With the love in your heart as the only song, there is no such beauty as where you belong. Rise up, follow me, I will lead you home. And the second is a hymn based on Psalm 46, verse 10. The music is by Sibelius. We know the tune Finlandia. And the words translated in English by Jane L. Bothwick. Be still, my soul, the Lord is on thy side. Bear patiently the cross of grief or pain. Leave to thy God in order to order and provide. In every change, he faithful will remain. Be still, my soul, thy best, thy heavenly friend, through many ways leads to a joyful end. Be still, my soul, thy God doth undertake to guide the future as he has the past. Thy hope, thy confidence, let nothing shake. All now mysterious shall be bright at last. Be still, my soul. The waves and winds will know his voice who ruled them while he dwelt below. Be still, my soul, when dearest friends depart and all is darkened in the vale of tears. Then shalt thou better know his love, his heart, who comes to soothe thy sorrow and thy fears. Be still, my soul, thy Jesus can repay from his own fullness all he takes away. Be still, my soul, the hour is hastening on when we shall be forever with the Lord, when disappointment, grief, and fear are gone. sorrow forgot, love's purest joys restored. Be still, my soul, when change and tears are past, all safe and blessed, we shall meet at last. Be still, my soul. Begin the song of praise on earth, believing to thy Lord on high. Acknowledge him in all thy words and ways, so shall he view thee with a well-pleased eye. Be still, my soul, the sun of life divine, through passing clouds, shall but more brightly shine. Ave atque vale, amica nostra. Thank you.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let me start by first expressing to the family of Senator Kerry Dziedzic, who is with us in the chamber today, our profound sorrow, our shared mourning, our condolences on her departure from this earth, and our gratitude for the part and the role that they played in helping bring up such an amazing person, amazing human being, and our gratitude for sharing her with us so that we could know her and serve alongside her and watch in awe of the amazing public leader and public servant that she was. Mr. President, let me also express to her staff, who is also her family, who worked alongside her, who she loved so much, who loved her so much. They've been going through this difficult time in mourning and sorrow and pain as well. And Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'd like to name them. Some are here with us in the chamber. It's been a hard time for them, and so let's reach out to them individually if we can to let them know that we respect and admire and have so much gratitude for everything they did alongside Kerry Dziedzic, because as we know, our staff makes us successful. To her legislative assistants over the years, Michaela Matanis, Beth Johnston, Abdi Hamid Badri, Tatiana Reed, Matt Paris, Mary Underwood, Amanda Peterson, and her leadership staff when she served as our majority leader, Mark Kimball, Krista Broughton, Steve Peterson, Carly Moline, Selena Koster, Chris Runquist, Behia Manasra, Mike Mullen, and Jackie Clinton. Mr. President, despite her best efforts, Kerry Dziedzic will be remembered by history as one of the most consequential senators to have served in the Minnesota Senate. And I say despite her best efforts because she was all about the work, about results, not at all about having the eyes on her or getting credit or, heaven forbid, receiving accolades. Senator Dziedzic was not given to soaring speeches on the floor or in committee. Don't get me wrong. She made great speeches and her comments were solid, always conveying her values, her perspective, and most importantly, providing information. And you could go to the bank with what she had to say because she always did her homework. Senator Dziedzic did not race to press scrums or issue a myriad of press releases. In fact, as our majority leader, she deputized others to handle a lot of that so she could focus on the things that she did best. Kerry, Senator Dziedzic, excelled in so many ways that were often unseen, even to many of us who work here. Steadfastness, reliability, hard work, listening, problem solving. She was unfailingly kind, always calm, a friend to everyone, and very funny. Literally no one outworked her. She read every word of every bill that she had any kind of responsibility for, whether it be her own or others that were before her in committee. There was never a late night in the office that I went home after her. I'd walk by her office, see her burning the midnight oil, and drop in for a visit, and I cherish those memories. She and I go back a long way together. We kind of followed the same career path, and the things that we did accumulated to land us here. Carrie Dziedzic hails from an amazing family. Generations long, deep and wide community connections dedicated to public service. A family that values lending time, effort, and your life's work to making this a better place for others. Carrie stood up for people. People who need things to live the lives they aspire to, a secure and level playing field so everyone has housing, health care, a good education, equality of opportunity, and freedom to be who they are. She was a champion for families, working people, and those who struggle. I had the great honor of knowing and being very good friends with her father, the legendary Walt Dziedzic, police officer, council member, and park commissioner, who, though very different from Carrie in many ways, completely out of view, would do many good works and kindnesses for others. I could tell you so many stories of incredible personal things that Walter did on behalf of people he knew and cared about, and she learned from the best. Maybe it is surprising that this somewhat quiet, totally lacking in guile, no swagger woman, relying on her intelligence, friendship, values, openness to others, willingness to talk, consider, compromise, collaborate, would turn out to be a giant of the Senate, but not to those of us who knew her and had the great honor of working with her, and most importantly, were fortunate enough to count her as a friend. There are many ways to do this job, and that's okay. It's part of the reason why we have a large, deliberative legislative body. But I kind of like her way. And my hope is that we can all draw from the example and the legacy that Carrie Dziedzic leaves us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start by giving the family of Senator Carrie Dziedzic my condolences, and to our community and to our staff. We all love and miss her. The first time I met Senator Carrie Dziedzic, she reached out to me, offering to help. I was a new candidate running for office. Carrie wanted to know what she could do for me. She never stopped offering to help. And I will never stop being grateful to her. Sometime around then, she gave me advice that I still carry on to today. She said, don't worry about the politics or the loud voices. Do the right thing, and people will love that. Senator Dziedzic was the ultimate teammate and a public servant, someone who wanted to contribute to all of the work and take none of the credit. When we adjourned the 2023 legislative session, Carrie walked into our Senate caucus room and got a standing ovation. She hated that, probably, knowing her, but she deserved it. She had a way of making you feel like every issue, every bill, and every amendment was as important to her as it was to you. Carrie made time, whether that was a late night call for me, being frustrated or feeling uncertain about this place, or she called to offer her condolences when you lost a loved one. I wish we could call her today. She was someone you could confide in and make a deep, meaningful connection with. She helped me accountable without making me doubt myself. She probably talked all of us out of one, two, maybe a few bad decisions. To carry your feelings, and your thoughts were valid, and your opinions were valuable. Your story, your life story, was worth knowing and learning from. She's one of the kindest people I have ever met. Carrie never stopped offering to help, not even at the end. In December, she wrote me a letter of recommendation to grad school. She talked to me about what was best for me, my future, my family, my community. Even on her last days, she cared about people. That advice that she gave me, doing the right thing, is something that I will carry on. It's part of her legacy, is doing the right thing. And as Carrie would say, life is short. Hug your loved ones and enjoy it.
Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we're here to honor our friend, Senator Carrie Dziedzic, but also to celebrate the incredible life she lived. A life marked by selflessness, passion, and an unwavering commitment to those around her. Carrie was one of the most well-respected senators I've had the honor to work with during my time at the Capitol. But more than that, she was a true friend to all of us. I'll never forget the day the Senate Democrats elected her as the leader. I thought to myself, are they serious? Carrie Dziedzic as their leader? That's like a gift to us. Our Republican caucus was over the moon because Carrie had that rare quality of being able to unite people from all walks of life and both sides of the aisle. Carrie and I had a special bond. We were both elected the same year, 2012, though she arrived a little bit earlier in a special election. Our connection was immediate, sparked by our love of hockey. Her brother Joe, who's up in the gallery here with us today, played in the NHL during the same time my husband did. I spoke with Joe recently and shared how proud Carrie was of him and his career and how she would often brag about it. But to him, she was just a big sister. She was almost like a second mother. As the oldest sibling, Carrie naturally took on a nurturing role. Joel, the youngest, told me how she always put others first, whether it was her friends, her family, her nieces and nephews, or her constituents. That same selflessness extended here in the Senate. Carrie's work was never about personal glory. It was about making a real difference. One of her most recent triumphs was ensuring insurance coverage for cancer patients' wigs, a cause that showed her compassion and determination to ease the burden of others. Carrie and I often talked about hockey, attending games together and reflecting on how the hockey world always feels like it's one big family. We laugh about how similar it is to being in the legislature, a diverse group of people being brought together, working towards a common goal. And just like in hockey, Carrie believed in teamwork and mutual respect. Even from heaven, I can feel Carrie keeping a watchful eye over all of us, working to foster civility here in the Senate. And I truly believe that somehow she had her hand in getting us to a unanimous power-sharing agreement today. Carrie's passing is a stark reminder of life's brevity and the importance of cherishing what truly matters. She was a gift to all of us, a leader, a friend, and a part of our Senate family. Carrie, we will miss your wisdom, your kindness, and your unwavering spirit. As you look down on us, I have no doubt you're still guiding us, encouraging us to be better, and continuing to work to be united. Thank you, Carrie, for everything. Rest in peace, dear friend.
Senator Klein.
Mr. President, I had the privilege of seeing Carrie present her last bill in committee by Zoom. She was ill, but after passing a compendium of bills that transformed our state and touched the lives of every person in it in this generation and the next, she had one more piece of work to do. She wanted to make sure that people like her who are going through cancer treatment had access to wigs to preserve their dignity. And she presented that bill in our committee. We included it in our bill and we passed it for Carrie. When I think about how there was such a superhuman leader among us and how we lost her shortly after she accomplished so much, I thought this may have been how people felt after losing President Abraham Lincoln, where someone sort of transformative is given to you, but only for a very brief time. And as was said then, let us say again, now she belongs to the ages. About 6 months after President Lincoln was lost, a sensitive young man named Walt Whitman wrote a poem about that loss, about the loss of his captain. And I want to read part of that now in honor of Senator Carrie Dziedzic. O captain, my captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung. For you the bugle trills. For you bouquets and ribboned wreaths. For you the shores a crowding. For you they call, the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. My captain does not answer. Her lips are pale and still. My mother does not feel my arm. She has no pulse or will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes in with object won. Rest in peace, Carrie.
Senator Westland.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I did not know Carrie for as long as some folks in this chamber, and yet every person who knew Carrie felt special. You were her friend. You were her colleague. And she knew what was going on with every member of our caucus, and she probably knew what was going on in the other caucus too. She cared about people deeply. She cared about people as from the human level. And that was always first and foremost for her. And I can't help but think of Carrie right now, blanching at all of the attention that is being showered on her today, and yet so well deserved. It is such a rare thing in this business for someone to absolutely shun the spotlight in favor of doing the work. And you always knew wherever she was, no matter what was going on with her, she put her head down and she did the work because she believed in the importance of what we do here. And she believed that we make a difference in the lives of the people of this state. Anytime anyone was having a challenge, whether it was with politics, with loss, with grief, no matter what was happening, she would always send a text or a call to check in. And she did that with me many times over the last year. You know the issue, stay strong. You know what you're doing, stay strong. I am very, very grateful to have had Senator Dziedzic as a role model. I wish there were more like her. I wish we could be more like her, and I hope that we will try to embody her spirit of service as we move forward this session and into the future. My dear friend Carrie Dziedzic, please rest in peace and know how deeply loved and missed you are.
Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Mr. President. So many of the words that have been said really echo what I want to say about Senator Dziedzic and Carrie as a person. Senator Dibble talked about how unassuming she is, and it's not about Carrie. Others have talked about her kindness, and I think if we can wrap up one word for Carrie Dziedzic, it's kindness. as a Democrat, me being a Republican, it never seemed like that mattered when you were talking or working with Carrie, even if it was on opposing views. I got to know Carrie Dziedzic when she won her seat and started on the LCCMR committee. Senator Tomassoni was on there also, another dear senator that we lost in recent years. Both we could learn a lot by modeling. But Senator Dziedzic, even though she was in the majority, I was on the conference committee working for some Republican projects and some in my area, and she didn't exclude you. She wanted to figure out a way to get it done also. We were having a battle with the House, which was in Republican control, and for some reason, this autonomous mower that was in my district, the research, they did not want. And Carrie dug in her heels even harder, and we got the autonomous mower research dollars through the LCCMR, but that's the kind of unassuming, across-the-aisle work that Senator Dziedzic would do, and it got to the point where Senator Hoffman and I, as conferees, and Senator Dziedzic, we were battling, and we finally said, Senator Dziedzic, run the clock out because we aren't getting anywhere talking to the House members. And of course, she did her best to do that as well. And that was kind of one of the first times you really got to know a senator as a colleague, as a friend. And I hope every one of us will take those opportunities and try to expand from them. For those of you that didn't have the chance to know Senator Dziedzic, I hope these stories are helpful because we all do need to turn the temperature down at times and just get to know people as a friend, as a person, because it pays off. A few years later, Republicans took charge of control by 34 to 33 votes in the Senate. And who ends up on the Ag and Housing Rural Development Committee as the minority lead? I was the chair, Senator Dziedzic, on the Ag Committee, but it had housing in it. But it gave me another just cherished opportunity to get to know her on a personal level, and kindness comes out again. She would often stop by after the meetings, chat about what was coming up next, give me some feedback on what might be concerns they or she or others have, and we just talk it through. It wasn't caustic, it wasn't threatening, it wasn't to be mean, it was to be friendly and discuss it and figure out ways around things. And I share that so we can maybe all learn a little bit from Senator Dziedzic. Because it doesn't have to be getting in front of the limelight and talking the loudest. Sometimes how we carry ourselves and the character is really what people notice. And as we all know, we don't have an infinite time on this earth. I'm very saddened Senator Dziedzic time was so much more shortened than any of us would have wanted. On Christmas Eve, I just relooked at the text I had sent her. I said, wishing you a blessed and Merry Christmas. I hope you're doing well. I hadn't got a reply from that until the later news, 2 to 3 days later, was of her passing. I hope she read it. I trust she probably did. She was always so fun to visit with. She'd take your call. 2 years ago, when she was diagnosed with cancer, how ironic. The same day she was in surgery, I had been in a snowmobile accident, many of you remember. She was recovering for multiple weeks. I was recovering a few weeks. And it was then that there was a great time that Senator Dziedzic and I were able to visit by phone, commiserate and share some of the same stories. With 5 broken ribs, her just having abdomen surgery. We both lightly laughed about neither one of us wanted a joke being cracked when we talked to somebody, didn't want to cough, didn't want to breathe very hard because we were both going through a similar pain. And that's just Carrie. And I just share that as some insight for all of us, because I think we can all learn. And I'm going to sorely miss Senator Dziedzic and what she brought to this body. I do think it's quite ironic that we are in this co-sharing agreement this year. Senator Dziedzic, when she was first elected, Senator Housley was right. Many of us Republicans said, you couldn't have picked a better majority leader. And I don't think you could have. For the purpose of this body, the benefit of this body, she is going to be sorely missed. And with a little levity, I talked to Senator Dziedzic, I've talked to Senator Murphy about this, Senator Johnson. There is a common denominator, members. The last 3 majority leaders or co-majority leaders have all gone through the Agriculture Committee here in the Senate. Senator Murphy being the minority lead after Senator Dziedzic, and then the majority leader. Senator Johnson being the vice chair alongside me as chair, and Senator Dziedzic as the minority lead. And so, I don't know what that means, but just if you want to be a leader in this body, get on the Ag Committee. Members, I just wanted to share that with you. Senator Dziedzic, his family, she was a gem. We're going to sorely miss her, and I'm sorry for your loss and sorry for our loss. It was way too soon. But let's all remember how she treated us, and let's try to carry her tradition on, because we all have a limited time, and how we treat people is going to last a lot longer than any one of us. May she rest in peace.
Senator Umu Verbatim.
Thank you, Mr. President. I love Carrie Dziedzic, and I am just so grateful that I got to serve in this body with her, and I'm so grateful that I got to experience her leadership. When I came in 2023 as a freshman senator, I really had no idea what to expect. I was pretty nervous about having to serve with all of you. And one of the first conversations that I had with Carrie after she was elected our majority leader, she assured me that she was going to make sure we were prepared, that we knew what we were doing, we were ready to get on the floor and pass all of these bills. And that's because she was a problem solver. And I really loved how direct Carrie was. She was just short and sweet and got straight to the point. And that sort of leadership really put me at ease. And the legislature can be a chaotic place, but Carrie was the type of person who really knew how to make order out of that chaos. That's another thing that made me feel really safe, and I think that made a lot of us feel safe as members and as staff. And I have to say that Carrie had the utmost respect for our staff. I remember at the end of the 2023 session, we had a few long nights here on the floor, and at the time, Leader Dziedzic, she worked really hard to get a deal and reach across the aisle, set time limits, and just set a path forward through the end of session. And I know that more than anything, she was concerned about our staff and their safety and just for all of us to be able to get home. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated that she brought so many talented folks here to the Senate. I really believe that the people that you surround yourself with are a reflection of you, and we have so many wonderful staff, and Carrie was wonderful. In 2023, Carrie encouraged me to take one of the bills that she'd been working on. It was a ban the box bill. We'd, of course, ban the box for public and private employees, and this next step was just to ban it for the applications for state boards and commissions. And those little moments that I got to have, bills that she thought of for me, mean a lot to me now. I'm really honored that she chose me in that moment. I really appreciated that she made space for new leadership. That was something she was really good at. Carrie was also always available to answer my questions, all of our questions. She always picked up the phone, and she did that even through her chemo treatment. Simply put, Carrie was the best. I learned so much from her, and I still feel like I have so much to learn, and I wish that she was here because I have a lot of questions for her, honestly, and I really want her advice on a lot of things, and I'm gonna miss working with her. But I know that Carrie would be proud of us today for coming together, and I hope that we can continue to honor her and her legacy and keep that spirit moving forward. Thank you.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I had a few comments as far as Senator Dziedzic is concerned. I got to know her here on the floor. I wasn't in any committees with her. But you know where I got to know her a little bit better was shortly after my ethics complaint. We had a meeting a few months later, and she was there along with other leadership. And I was struck by how kind and considerate she was and the time she took to listen to me and my perspective, and didn't interrupt and just listened. So from that point on, I had a warm spot in her heart about it, in my heart about it. I did send her a card with some Bible verses during her last days. I was hoping to go visit her during session now, but unfortunately and sadly, she passed away. You know, I did attend her wake, and I saw many of you there. I also attended the funeral of Senator Champion's mom. And so we all have loved ones and close friends and family members who die. And members, it's important to understand that the death rate of human beings is 100%, okay? We all only leave this earth one way. We came in one way, and we're leaving one way. And really, what you need to understand, there are only two primary views of sickness, disease, pain, suffering, and death. And one of them is that all the religions and the philosophies of the world believe that sickness, disease, pain, suffering, aging, and death was used in some way to bring us into existence. That's one of the views. The other view is that sickness, disease, pain, suffering, aging, and death was a consequence imposed by a creator. By the way, our founding fathers believed in the latter, not the former. And we pushed out the latter view in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, out of our schools. So members, I hope my comments can bring comfort to you and to the Dziedzic family. And I would strongly suggest that we teach both views to our children that are in the school. It does give you a sense of hope versus believing that in the hopeless philosophy of that we got here by sickness, disease, pain, suffering, and death. So members, I hope that my prayer and testimony is that when the roll is called up yonder, that all of us will be there, because none of us can save ourselves. We need a Savior. God bless.
Senator Pa.
Thank you, President Champion. When I first arrived in my first term as senator, here at the Capitol in 2023, I was 8.5 months pregnant with my 5th child, which at my mature age was absolutely unplanned and unexpected, but was an incredible blessing. And at the time, Senator Dziedzic was Senate Majority Leader, and she understood that even though it was such an exciting time for me, that it was also a very challenging time. And she reached out to me many times to make sure I had everything I needed here in my work to be the best senator I could be, because she knew how important this work was to me, to my district, to Minnesotans. She's such a remarkable individual because she understood that when we come to our jobs, or when anyone comes to their job, they're not just another worker or someone doing their job. They're people who have real lives. They have families, they have children, they have challenges. And she made sure that she was a champion for transforming workplaces into spaces of equity, compassion, opportunity, and so that people can find success in the work that they do. And that was something that she did for me, and I will never forget that. And among that and so many of the things that people had already spoken about, she was such a huge champion and advocate for just people, just making sure that we see the human in all of us. So she will be dearly missed by me, and I know by many, and by all who knew her. Thank you.
Before I go to the next speaker, just asking you to be considerate of the family because they've been waiting for quite some time up in the chambers. So I'm now going to go to Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief because there have been so many wonderful comments and speeches. Carrie Dziedzic and I were office mates for very, very many years, and as people have said, she was quite a workaholic. And when I came in the morning, she was already here. When I left at night, she was still there, unless she had a constituent meeting, which she was very dedicated to her constituents, as we all know. I'd bop into her office, kind of unannounced, unexpected, to share with her my complaints and my concerns. And even as a senior member, I would seek her advice, and she would always set aside whatever she was doing. She always had time for me, as she had time for everyone. She just paid attention. When she was elected majority leader, that attention extended to kind of every member. And while undergoing surgery and cancer treatment, we didn't see each other so much in person, but she was always available then by text or by phone. So that advice and that connection really continued. I admire her so much. She had such a strong will to live and to continue the work and to be with us and to serve her constituents, that she thought really she was coming back. And I too really thought she was coming back. So I just want to end by saying, may her memory be a blessing.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I got to know Carrie Dziedzic, Senator Dziedzic, during my first term when we were working together on an issue. And despite being of different political parties, as a freshman in the minority, I felt that Senator Dziedzic respected and valued me. And she was always working towards that common ground. And as I reflect on the passing, I think that's the essence of Carrie Dziedzic. She was the epitome of both grace and integrity. And for those that were able to make her visitation, you clearly saw the high esteem in which she was held. To her family, we share your grief, and yet we will take solace in the memories that we have of her. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Senator Hur.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my condolences to the Dziedzic family. Karen and I shared the same freshman class, along with Senator Hoffman, Senator Wickland, Senator Kent, and Senator Housley, and a few others, if I may have missed mentioning their name. Although she was elected a few months prior due to a special election, I know her to be the most studious, and I would not be wrong to say she's the most honest person among us. We align in many issues and aspects of life, whether that be environmental issues, places we live, community engagements, or honoring the legacy of our forebear. More precisely for her is her father as public servant. Carrie has a legacy of her own, such as working for the office of Paul Wellstone, our late U.S. Senator, and later became our colleague and became our majority leader. In terms of environmental issue, it was her, in fact, she was my predecessor in the LCCMR committee with Senator Westrom. And it was her leadership that helped tailor the 1.5 ratio of the Environmental Trust Fund toward smaller nonprofits. She wanted to make sure that we did it right and with equity, but give me the credit as the chief author of the bill. In terms of places, we both represent East Side, I in St. Paul, and for her in Minneapolis. We similarly attuned to the needs of similar demographic. Communities like Oromo, Somali, Liberian, Hmong, Hispanic. And we respond to international issues concerning this community. We went as far as demand the release of Minnesotan incarcerated overseas or in their home country. And we were able to successfully bring them back home safely with their family. And so indeed, Dziedzic and I attend those cultural functions, whether that be wedding or funerals. We delivered words of comfort to family facing loss. But next time, I know that she will not be there with me. But she's in a better place now, as I believe. So my friend, rest in peace and farewell. Godspeed. Thank you.
Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, Carrie would probably hate that this is happening right now. She hated attention. She wanted us to just get to work, but she's not here, so we're going to talk all the good things about her today. Carrie was a mentor, I think, in the caucus, especially probably the freshman caucus. There are lots of arguments over who loved her the most or who she helped the most. But I was elected never thinking I would ever do a job like this, and I told her, I don't know how to do this job. Can you help me? I promise you I'll work hard, I'll do whatever you tell me, I'll read whatever you tell me to read, I'll talk to whoever you want me to talk to, just teach me how to do this job, because I really don't know, and I don't want to let my district down. And she said, she would always say this to me, she said, you're good at talking to people, just keep talking to people, keep it up. And Senator Westrom, when I joined the Ag Committee, she said, that's a great committee, they have so many interesting bills. And if I remember the story that people told me, they put her on there just to sort of fill a spot. And she worked so hard and knew every single bill that by the end of the session, they put her on the conference committee. So that's sort of a testament to Carrie, who's probably did not represent a district with a lot of farms, but knew those bills better than anyone. To the Republicans in the room, I want you to know in private conversations and public conversations, but she knew you too. She knew you well, and she respected all of you. If I was looking for someone to sign on to one of my bills and I was looking for a Republican to maybe help me through it, she'd say, go talk to Dornick, go ask Nelson. I think Dziedzic had a bill on this a few years ago. She knew all of your districts. She knew all of your bills. Even the freshmen, she knew you too. And she never said anything bad. She just said, this is the way that maybe you might be able to appeal to them in their district. She was so pragmatic. She was so practical. She was a straight shooter too. That's what I think I admire about her the most. She didn't play games. I meet with Republicans a lot, and I'm always trying to say, I promise you, I'm being honest. And I learned that from Carrie. Just say what you mean. I last spoke to her a few days before she died. And of course, she was helping me with the bill. She had advice. And then we didn't speak again. I sent her a text to say Merry Christmas, like a lot of you apparently did, and didn't hear back. I hope I can be half the senator she was. And I hope I make her proud. Her picture is going to be in my desk for as long as I'm here. She'll still be on the floor with us. So I'm going to stop embarrassing myself and sit down, but Godspeed, Carrie. We'll miss you.
Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Carrie Dziedzic is the type of person that made everyone around her better. I had the privilege of getting to know Carrie and building a relationship with her during our time serving here in the Senate, our many years together. And that relationship, that friendship, grew even deeper when she took over as the majority leader. She took over as majority leader when my time as the majority leader came to an end. And we would chat every once in a while, and occasionally she would ask for advice, and I would be happy to share some advice. And there was this one time, I'm not going to share what that advice was, but towards the end of session after her first year as the majority leader, she said, oh, Jeremy, she said, you were so right on this. And we had a nice little chuckle on that. And she was just such a caring and thoughtful person, not only when it came to legislation, whether it was a bill she was working on or a bill that a colleague of ours was working on. She was always so thoughtful, and she dug in so deep into the legislation and asked questions, and she cared so deeply about the people that she represented. She cared so deeply about her community, and she cared so deeply about the state of Minnesota. And this chamber, this institution, is a better place because of Carrie Dziedzic. The state of Minnesota is a better place because of Carrie Dziedzic. And I would like to send my condolences to her family and her friends and the staff and the colleagues who had the opportunity to know and work together with Carrie. She will certainly be missed.
Senator Dziedzic, followed by Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to stand up and say my thoughts to Carrie. I met Carrie very early on when I was a freshman. And Senator, as you all know, Senator Tomassoni was one of my good friends. And Senator Tomassoni daily would have food in his office, and he would invite, I remember Senator Bach, Senator Hoffman, of course, Carrie Dziedzic, Eric Simonson, and myself. And I really got to know her very well on a personal standpoint. And I think it's so good because relationships really do build this body. I'm surprised John hasn't got up and talked about that, but those relationships that we build are so important. Then when she became sick, we started texting back and forth, and I had gotten hit by a snowmobile. I think it was a snowmobile, wasn't it, Martin? Yeah, it was a snowmobile. Anyway, she would text me and ask how things were going, and so we kept in conversation. And then when she had to vote remotely because of her illness, she'd send me a text, and she'd say, great comments on this, or glad you brought that up. So just a great person.
to the family, we will severely miss her, and thank you for what you did. She was one of those people that I will always respect here as well. So she made a difference to this body, and she made a difference to the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President, and a lot has been said, and so I'll be brief on this. And I really had a privilege of working with Senator Dziedzic, both in the rank and file setting, but then also we both came into leadership at the same time in the beginning of the 23 session. And it was a lot of fun getting to know her, and I have a longer commute up north, and a lot of that time that I spent in the pickup driving up to northwest Minnesota was spent talking to Carrie Dziedzic. And initially those conversations were about bills and process and procedure and what we were going to be doing in the week to come. But as we got more comfortable in discussing what was going on in the Senate and talking about what was going on in our lives and what it looked like in the future, and we got through these discussions, and then she was diagnosed with cancer. And those discussions really took on a new meaning. And so we'd talk a long time as we were driving, and one of the things that we stumbled upon was a song called Legacy by Nicole Nordman. And in that, there was a line that we'd often talk about, and it says in there, of all the who's and so-and-sos that used to be the best at such and such, it won't matter much. I won't lie, it feels good to see your name in lights. We all need a that a boy and that a girl. But in the end, I'd like to hang my hat on something more besides the temporary trappings of this world. And what Carrie has done is built up a legacy in this institution. It's really given me perspective of why we're here. It's not for the daily titles, it's not for the bills that we're putting forward, but it's for the legacy of this state. I'm super proud to have had those moments with Carrie in which we discuss those things and we can see the legacy that she has left in this institution. Not just by the bills that she has left, but the relationships, the stories, just what she has left in this building that remains after she is gone. And so I'm proud to have served with her, and I'm proud to continue that legacy. And hopefully this session will really be a commitment to what she has left behind.
Before we go to Senator Murphy, what I will say, because I will not repeat any of the things that have been said about Carrie Dziedzic, but I think you all know, or at least have an idea of how important Carrie has always been to me, Senator Dziedzic. And you know how sometimes if you talk too much, you will get too emotional about it, so I will restrain from being too long. The one thing that I will say is that I think we often not only think about the things people say, but we will always remember the way they made us feel. And so to me, she always made me feel valued and heard, and she was always thoughtful. When she first got her diagnosis, and she felt like she needed time off so that she could, well, at least time away, because she was never off, away from the chambers, and when she asked me to step in to help with our caucus. It was a very honorable thing for her to ask, but she says, I believe in you and I know that you will do what is important and what's best for our caucus. And so I want you to know that even on those drive home, she would always be on the phone with me, talking to me, knowing every bill and everything that's going on, and she could see everything that's going on. I always thought she had some other hidden camera because she would always know everything that was going on. But what I will say is that she was a workhorse, not a show horse. She always wanted to make a difference, and she was a person with character, courage, and she always had a deep love for humanity, so no matter who you were. She is and will always remain a real gift. So with that, I'll go to Senator Murphy before we stand for a moment of silence.
Thank you, President Champion, and to everyone in the chamber. We've spoken a lot today about Senator Dziedzic, and she is a person who I believe has always led with humility first, a real measure of a person. And until we learned otherwise, she continued to work in preparation for this session with members to represent her beloved Northeast and the people of Minnesota. I hope her legacy burns brightly for us all this session and going forward, and I'd just like to close with her own words. This is from her visitation. This is a day to celebrate life. I had an amazing and interesting life. I met all of you fabulous people. I'm grateful for your friendship. Thank you to my family and close friends who helped me get through this last year, making sure I had rides to the doctor appointments, therapy, and gatherings. I truly appreciate your kindness. Thank you all that called, emailed, and sent notes to check in and fill me in with what was happening at the Capitol or your daily lives. It brightened my day. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal. I hope you cherish the memories and smile. And can you continue to make new memories with your family and friends? Life is short. Enjoy it.
Members, will you please rise? And will you join me in a moment of silence for our beloved Senator Carrie Dziedzic? Thank you, members. You may be seated. Members, we are moving to our next order of business. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Thursday, January 16th at 11 a.m.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. And now the Senate is now adjourned until 11 o'clock on Thursday, January 16, 2025. Have a great day, members.